The causes of the revolution were not born in 2011, but are rooted in the past 5 decades.
There was extreme fear and terror among the people, to the point where speaking out or expressing opinions was almost impossible. People feared for their lives and the safety of their families, even their closest relatives. When the Assad regime declared emergency law, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. There was a complete absence of freedom and an assault on the Constitution, which made people feel hopeless.
The Syrian uprising began in 2011 when children were actually inspired by the Arab Spring happening in the neighboring countries right next to them.
Children wrote on the walls, "Jayik الدور يا دكتور," meaning your turn is coming, doctor, referring to Assad, who was an eye doctor, the president of Syria. Those children wrote these words of freedom on the walls of their schools, and the intelligence services arrested them, tortured them. And their parents, as a natural reaction, went out to the street saying, "Hey, we want our kids." I remember the day I went to the first protest. That's one of the most beautiful things I experienced in my entire life.
But I never thought that I would end up with me being taken to prison, political prison, being tortured.
The motives of the Syrian revolution from 2011 to today is the demands of the Syrian people, asking for freedom, justice, and democracy. From 2011 to today, this regime has not met even a small demand from the Syrian people.
Before the war started in 2011, Syria had one of the highest literacy rates in the world. And so as the war has been going on for 12 years, a lot of children, a high percentage of children have had no access to education.
احنا بدنا حقوقنا. أنا صف سادس بتمنى إنه يصير تعليم، بتمنى إني أصير دكتورة.
Before the siege was broken, we had obstacles in the education process here. There was no curriculum or materials for the students.
أنا عطية العوض من مدرسة شهود الربيع من الصف الأول من مخيم القضبان. من حقي أنا أتعلم ومن حقي أن أصبح طبيب.
السلام عليكم، احنا معكم ابو محمد من ريف حمص الشرقي. انهزمنا من مدينتنا تدمر من القصف. لجأنا على مخيم الرقبان. في ميليشيات وخايفين عايشين هان بالمنطقة الصعبة متحملين الصعوبة.
It is very sad that, kids the age 15 to 17 where, for me, the revolution started in Syria. They are thinking about how do we pass the checkpoint without being arrested and tortured? How do we survive on a daily basis, the bombardment, the killing, the torture? This is very heartbreaking that millions of children in Syria are going through that, where school is not important anymore.
In the past 12 years, the Assad regime has killed almost 1 million of its own people, has tortured hundreds of thousands and detained hundreds of thousands.
Massacres are still taking place in Syria today. Crimes are happening on a daily basis. The regime is still in power. Dictatorship is strong.
Today, we have a rebirth of the bright first days of the peaceful, civilized, and dignified Syrian uprising in Asweda, south of Syria. We have women, men, and children taking to the streets, chanting for peace, reform, and development.
We will celebrate the 13th anniversary of the Syrian Revolution. For us, the revolution is an idea. The idea is being renewed. The idea is not dying. The idea is continuing. The idea will continue to achieve its goals.
It is high time for the Syrian tragedy to come to an end after 13 painful years. Had this world stood seriously and honestly by Syrians, millions of Syrian lives could have been saved.
Even if they cut all the flowers, they cannot kill the spring. It's impossible for this revolution to die. We will continue until we achieve our goals, even if it takes generation after generation. Our goals will be achieved, God willing.